You falter, something you cannot alter. I am not bluffing. You have nothing. And so it is here the light wanes, where a single giant remains.
A Single Giant Remains, Season 1, Episode 8, Scarlets Mist, by Brian Fedor MacGregor, on Wednesday the 30th of June 2021. Now Mitch, well, he was somewhat annoyed with life, living, and quite simply put, living life as lived. And so, well, he just wanted to be alone, very much alone, away from the cruelty of everywhere, of anywhere, and that included the cruelty of the cruel city he lived within. It was the case, however, that he just couldn't decide where to go, let alone when, although to add insult to injury, his friends told him where to go, and even when, which didn't really help that much, to be fair, to be frank. Yet so, and Mitch, well, it was at that point, he just, knew, then decided to be by himself at his hidden woodland retreat. And so he took to those woods after a long drive, never feeling any easier about life, about living, about how he lived, about lives, about anything. But he had considered how he lived, at least somewhat, and didn't like what he saw or ever seen. Mitch, he just went away from the city. He sort of loved, in a weird way, for a long stroll to the redder woods of those redder hills far back in the upper reaches of another county high above the town of Redder Woods, which was notorious for its deep, dark, dank red mist, as it had some of the reddest mist of red mist at that, for some reason, which was apparently attributed to some kind of atmospheric disturbance high up in the mountains. It is also said to rain red there too, which added to the redder effect already found within that forest as a whole. In popular lore, as written in those parts, it said everyone's red self, that of their angered self, resides within the red mist in a form of both red and black. It was peaceful, as in peaceful there at his cabin by those redder hillsides, and that is where Mitch could think about life in peace, and well, here there was a quieter life to be led, he thought, at least for a while. Yet Mitch, once there, wished to be somewhere, and had thoughts of somewhere that night, where he could be really free, as in free. He was angry, angered at many things in life, in living, and that night very much late on, the red mist, or rather Scarlets Mist, descended, albeit above his cabin, as it was known locally in those parts of the countryside. The red mist in those parts was said to be very much mysterious, as such, where individuals would see themselves within the mist, much as a mirror of mirrors as such, although the entity would always seemingly see or be in an angry or angered state. It was around midnight the same night that Mitch took a long winding stroll up the wide woodland path, where finally the red mist as such gently descended down to the ground from above, albeit head height as such, although and maybe a little higher somewhat, but who knows. As Mitch walked up through the red mist and along, the mist grew ever thicker, and at that point Mitch saw what he had become within the mist. The red mist, Scarlet's Mist, and while Mitch, he wasn't pleased, but he had decided to just shake hands with his alter red self, an angry entity, a red self of anger, that walked out of the mist to greet him, much like an old friend, seen only rarely. His alter angry self realised they were one of the same and welcomed him, just like mentioned, an old friend. They both shook hands, albeit firmly now, both realising, and then again once more, at which point they both wandered together, like great chums, very good ones at that, back into the mist, to return to be where they were most at home, within the redder hills and their hillsides. Mitch, he was never seen again anywhere as within those or any other parts, in fact nowhere at all ever again. The dog walker who watched, who knew Mitch's dilemma, noted Mitch didn't even look back as he walked off with his red self that last time into the forest of redness. The world he knew he left behind, as so to speak, was better off left behind, and he just didn't want to know, not anymore, not any longer, as in at all. Yet so whilst Mitch knew the world was an angry place, it would be a little calmer if he left it behind, and that's what he did. He didn't know where he was going, but he certainly knew where he came from and what he left behind, so the decision at least for him was easy, or perhaps easier. It was like Mitch's red self, well, it just knew he was coming to stay and never return back to a world filled with anger, angry people, and Mitch, well, he knew both, and both well at that. Mitch, he just rather sadly never ever considered making the best of what was given in life, but perhaps he was too consumed with anger, too consumed with rage, to ever be calm enough to think through his problems. But I guess he shared them with someone he knew, and whom he knew best. Now it is often said popularly in those parts, in lore or legend by the locals, that the red mist, or as it's known better, Scarlet's Mist, consumed Mitch because he belonged there, and only those deserving of staying there stayed there, being consumed by the mist, which knew well, it just knew well, he was coming. The end. Another Brian Fred Warren MacGregor production. Wednesday, June the 30th, 2021.